At his funeral, the room was full. But if you listened carefully, you would notice something disturbing. Most of the people crying were people who had once taken something from him: his time, his energy, his money, his silence. His name was Daniel, and he spent his entire life believing one dangerous idea: if you are kind enough, the world will be kind back. He was wrong. Daniel wasn't weak. He was capable, intelligent, observant. But he had been raised to believe that goodness meant self-sacrifice. "Be kind," his mother used to say. "God sees everything." So Daniel became the man who never said no. In school, he helped classmates pass exams they didn't study for. They celebrated their grades. No one mentioned his name. In university, he gave his notes to students who barely showed up. They graduated. They moved on. They forgot him. At work, he fixed problems that weren't his, stayed late, protected coworkers from consequences. Once his manager looked him in the eye and said, "You're such a good man, Daniel." Then promoted someone more assertive. Daniel smiled. He always smiled. Because he believed patience was strength. But patience without boundaries is slow self-destruction. As the years passed, a pattern formed. Whenever someone was in trouble, they called Daniel. Whenever someone needed money, they called Daniel. Whenever someone needed emotional support at 2 a.m., Daniel answered. But when Daniel needed help, there was always a reason. "I'm busy. I'll call you later. You're strong. You'll handle it." He convinced himself this was maturity. He told himself, "I don't give to receive." But deep down, something uncomfortable was growing. Not anger, something worse: invisibility. The more available he became, the less valuable he seemed. The more he gave, the more people expected. His kindness stopped being appreciated. It became assumed. And once something is assumed, it is no longer respected. At family dinners, he automatically paid the bill. No one even offered any more. At work, he trained new employees. Within 2 years, they earned more than him. In relationships, he forgave betrayals before apologies were even finished. He thought love meant endurance. He thought loyalty meant tolerance. He thought understanding meant silence. But silence does not earn respect. It erases presence. The breaking point came quietly. His closest friend, someone Daniel had supported for 15 years, decided to start a business. Daniel helped build it from nothing. He created the brand name, designed the logo, connected him to clients, spent nights brainstorming strategy. He never asked for payment. "Friends don't count favors," he said. The business exploded. It grew fast. One night, scrolling through his phone, Daniel saw photos from a celebration dinner. His friends smiling. Champagne glasses raised. A caption that read, "Couldn't have done this without these incredible people." Daniel looked at the photo carefully. He wasn't there. No invitation, no mention, no acknowledgement. For a long time he just stared at the screen. Not angry, not shocked, just empty. And in that emptiness, a sentence formed in his mind for the first time. "I built everyone else's future. Who built mine?" The answer was brutal. No one. Because Daniel had trained the world to take from him without guilt. He had confused being needed with being valued. But being needed is dependency. Being valued is respect, and respect requires the ability to walk away. That night, sitting alone in his apartment, Daniel understood something terrifying. He had spent his entire life trying to be a good man. He had never learned how to be a strong one. And kindness without strength is permission. Permission to be overlooked. Permission to be replaced. Permission to be forgotten. For the first time in his life, Daniel didn't feel generous. He felt tired, not physically, existentially, and somewhere deep inside him, something finally broke. Not loudly, but permanently. The next morning, Daniel didn't wake up angry. He woke up clear. There is a difference. Anger is emotional. Clarity is surgical. For the first time in his life, he replayed the last 20 years without excuses. No more justifying. No more spiritualizing. No more telling himself he was above disappointment. He saw the truth plainly. Every time he said yes while wanting to say no, he betrayed himself. Every time he stayed silent to keep the peace, he taught people that his voice didn't matter. Every time he gave without limit, he proved he had none, and the world responded accordingly. That week, someone at work asked him to stay late and fix a mistake that wasn't his. He paused. His old instinct screamed, "Just do it. Be helpful." Instead, he said calmly, "That's not my responsibility." No anger, no explanation, no apology. The room felt different. There was a brief silence, the kind that reveals new rules have just been written. For years, people had leaned on him because he never resisted. Now, for the first time, there was resistance. And resistance creates shape. Something unexpected happened over the following months. The people who valued him stayed. The people who only valued access disappeared. It wasn't dramatic. They simply stopped calling. Daniel didn't chase them. He didn't try to win anyone back. He began redirecting the energy he once scattered everywhere. He went to the gym consistently, not to impress anyone, but to feel physical strength replacing emotional exhaustion. He stopped answering late-night calls that weren't emergencies. He stopped offering solutions when no one asked. He stopped volunteering for emotional labor that drained him. Kindness didn't vanish. It sharpened. It became deliberate, measured, conditional. And strangely, the less he gave automatically, the more his presence carried weight. At a family gathering, when the bill arrived, he didn't reach for it. Someone else did. Not out of pity, out of balance. At work, when credit for a project was being discussed, he spoke up. I led that section. No defensiveness, just fact. No one challenged him, because the tone had changed. His voice no longer asked for approval. It stated reality. Daniel realized something most people never admit. People don't respect kindness. They respect standards. Kindness without standards looks like weakness. Kindness with standards looks like strength. Years passed. Daniel's circle became smaller, but it became real. The people around him no longer depended on his endless availability. They respected his time. They respected his limits. They respected him. He wasn't the most agreeable man in the room anymore. He wasn't the easiest. He wasn't the automatic solution to everyone's crisis. But he was solid, grounded, unmovable. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel invisible. He felt defined. When Daniel eventually grew old, he was not exhausted by a lifetime of silent sacrifice. He had energy. He had dignity. He had chosen himself enough times to finally recognize his own reflection. At his funeral years later, the room was smaller than it once might have been. But it was honest. The people who stood there weren't there because he had once saved them. They were there because he had shown them something rare. A man can be kind without being consumed. He can give without disappearing. He can love without surrendering his spine. Daniel had learned the lesson late. But not too late. Never be too kind. Be fair. Be generous. Be compassionate. But never teach the world that you exist to be used. Because the moment you accept that role, the world will gladly keep you in it. And it will never apologize.